So we had the intro there, but we've been up and live for like 15 seconds, so people have already seen it. But this is just fun because it's preparing. And now here we are. Hey!
Ever the consummate professionals.
Indeed.
Are we?
Well, you know, after being away for so long,
yes,
if we did it right when we got back, people would be disappointed.
And that's right. They're like, who are these imposters? Welcome to episode 103.
103.
Of Nerdspresso. I am Jeff.
I'm Jimmy.
And we are happy to see you, and we are happy to be live here at Bikes, Beans, and Bordeaux in lovely Audubon Park, not too far from what once was the Nerd Mothership, Enterprise 1701, your place for comics and collectibles back in the day. And now here we are at B3, who has been the home of Nerdspresso since 2017 when we debuted, and we are so grateful because they put up with our ugly mugs every time we venture out. So good Sunday to you all, dear nerds.
Good Sunday to everybody. They have our ugly mugs, we have their fantastic mugs, and we have our delightful mugs as well. So we've improved the quality of mugs in this place, I think, since we came in.
Our mugs have great, and that's all you can ask for, that you're better than when you started.
That's it.
And so we did take some time off. There was lots of stuff going on, so we took some, but we are back now and lots to catch up on.
Lots of cool things.
Yes.
It's a summer of nerds is what it is.
Yes.
And we've had some amazing things catching up on all of our favorite streaming services, and then also on Hulu.
and it's a way homer. And want to hear what is top of mind for all you folks, and you know, people are getting out and about again now, and movies are back in the movie theaters.
Yep.
And so just kind of wanting to know what is the summer nerd entertainment on your list, and we've got some stuff that we want to talk about. I think high on that, what everybody's been watching the last few weeks, which culminated this week, is the Loki series.
Loki.
And so
such a good show.
And you know, really says something. And before we dive into that, though, I need to make another big announcement.
Yep.
Probably the biggest announcement for Nerdspresso this week is happy birthday to my lovely bride, Lauren. She celebrated another trip around the sun this week, and so happy birthday to my dear bride. Thank you so much for putting up with me. So
that's so great, though.
Yes. So Pat, after that big news, into the big news that Loki season 1 wrapped up this week, and it was quite a ride.
So Marvel's TV shows have been really good so far. Like, they've had some really fun stuff. We're going to talk more about this in a second.
Yeah.
But with WandaVision out the gate, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and all the different great things that they have there. But Loki was, I think, the closest one with a connection to the actual movies, because there were parts of it that actually included like moments of Endgame and Infinity War. And then you just see exactly what's been happening with this character, this fan favorite character, since the end of that particular part of the story. And so you've got this really wild change in not only the scenery, but just kind of changing the scope of how the Marvel universe is going to work going forward. And it was just a delight.
I would have to say I am. This is probably my favorite of the series so far.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed all of them, and you're correct. Every one of the new Marvel series have been right on point. They've been really great, and what I've loved about the Marvel series is the movies are a lot of fun, but they can be packed, right?
Right.
And sometimes all that action, you lose character development at the sacrifice of the story with the action. And so,
not the case here.
No,
this is all character development.
Very much so. And what I think also what these series does a good job with is they take these characters that you might not get a chance to explore, who have something to do in the movies, but you don't really get a chance to, you know, take a deep dive in their motivations. Now you've got 6, 8, 10 episodes. You can really kind of explore what makes them tick, and I think that's the real strength of these series.
It was a nice deconstruction of the God of Mischief.
Yeah.
I think even the Loki character got to learn more about who he in fact was, and how his repetition across the different versions of Earth and the different multiverses to see like what are his constant things, and to really make a deep effectual change for himself. And finding ways to get back into the rest of the story going forward too. Which is nice.
And they've done just such an interesting job setting this stuff up. And you see in Endgame, this show was set up in Endgame, in the scene where Loki escapes from Avengers Tower.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, where'd he go? And now you see where he went. So this isn't the Loki who died in the beginning of Infinity War. This is the Loki from the first Avengers movie who escaped using the Infinity Stone during the time heist sequence of Endgame.
So during our hiatus, I got a chance to spend some time with a couple of friends over on the beach, and one of my friends who has not watched the show, I have to stress this, he has not watched any of Loki, had an idea. He's like, I would think it would be really cool if there was like a TV show where like you've got some time travel elements, but like things happen in time and it breaks off a piece of what the universe is. So like every time you flip a coin, there's a universe where you've got heads and a universe where you've got tails. And I think you can really build a story out of that. Like, wow, have you watched Loki yet? And he's like, no, I haven't. But then like it would be cool if, you know, you had people whose entire job was to go back and make sure that the coin landed on tails. I'm like, have you seen Loki yet? And this was right around the end of episode 2, like just between episode 2 and episode 3. And he's like, no, I haven't seen it yet, but I really think it would be kind of cool if like in one of those things you find yourself in one of the other universes. Like, you sure you haven't seen Loki yet? What do you think's gonna happen next?
MCU needs to hire this guy.
I mean, he's getting all the points.
Yeah.
I haven't caught up with him yet. His name is Terry. I haven't caught up with him yet since the series ended, but I would love to catch his thoughts on what's going to happen after.
I think he's needed in the MCU writers' room. But no, Loki had, for me, it had just such a great vibe.
Yeah.
And such a great look. And what's been cool about all the MCU series, they all have a different look.
Right.
They all have a different feeling to them. You know, WandaVision set off and it looked like they emulated the classic sitcoms for like half the season.
And it wasn't just because. There was a definite reason why it had that too.
Well, and you know, it was interesting when WandaVision started and everyone's like, I don't like this, and why are they ripping off sitcoms, and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was incredibly clever. And then you get into Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that really felt like an action film, a political thriller.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was in the same vein of Winter Soldier film. And it was kind of like very straightforward. It's probably the most straightforward of the new series, but it sets up great stuff and great moment, great character stuff in that.
They had some real
show.
challenges with that one too, because they had to do some somewhat last-minute rewrites on a lot of Falcon and Winter Soldier, particularly with how the villains were handled. Because Carly Morgenthau and the One World, the villains in this one.
The Globe Smashers or World
Flag
Smashers?
Smashers.
Flag Smashers. I knew there was Smashers in
Yeah, so in the story of Falcon and Winter Soldier, they have more of the super soldier serum. And so they're spreading it out amongst everybody to kind of, you know, overthrow governments and things like that. And if you think about that for too long, you're like, well, how is that going to work? And it's because they weren't originally going to spread the super serum, they were spreading a virus.
Ooh.
And so the original story was them creating a global disease to wipe out a significant amount of the population and rebuild under a single flag of a united humanity. And then they realized, well, we probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So they tweaked the story a little bit and they pivoted into like Syndrome from The Incredibles. It's like, we're going to put the super serum out to everybody because now once everyone is superheroes, nobody will be. And it's like, okay, I see what you did there. You made that work, but man, you're mad.
Ooh. And it's like it was very interesting now, and after we've gone through the last year that we've gone through, and you watch not just, say, WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and they talk about, you know, the the impact of the blip,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You kind of view it differently now. You kind of have a different perspective. I even went back and watched Infinity War and Endgame back to back recently, and now having the experience that we've all had over the last year and a half, it's like it feels different.
It does feel
different. It resonates differently to you. Yeah.
I heard Jared Leto, when the pandemic was started, when everything first began, he and a few people from, like, I think 30 Seconds to Mars or something else, like, they were out in the woods on some kind of a vision quest or something. But he was separated from the rest of humanity for months.
Yeah.
And then
That's not always a bad thing when you consider Jared Leto. So
right, but then he came back,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Where is everybody? Why are the streets empty? What's going on?" And then he had that moment where they had to say, "Oh, everything is different now. The whole world has changed in the time you were away." So he actually had that blip coming back moment.
Yeah, that 28 days kind of the Walking Dead moment when you come forward and are faced with drastic change and wonder what's been going on. So yeah.
And then he still gave us that in the Snyder Cut.
And he still did. Look at that. And then didn't wash his hair before the next movie.
Yep.
And so then we get into now
we're back with Loki.
Now we're back to Loki, and you look at Loki, and Loki to me had this real. It had kind of like a Douglas Adams, Neil Gaiman kind of feel. Quirky.
We don't need rules for this one because where we're going, rules don't necessarily apply.
And it was like it's very interesting too. It's like I could not wait for the next episode to start as soon as the first episode ended, and they were rolling them out weekly. And it seems now so different because we have gotten so trained now to binge an entire series at one time, but they're to get it rolled out 1 week at a time. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna wait a week to find out what's going on? And we used to do this all the time. We used to have to go through 22 weeks to find a resolution to a story. But it feels so alien. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to wait a week to see what's going on. But this was a show.
We used to get our stories 22 minutes in the show, back and forth with commercials. You couldn't fast forward anything.
Yeah.
TiVo was far off in between.
Yeah, and we just didn't know what was going to happen with Ross and Rachel or Jack Bauer or whatever.
In my day, we lived our life one Rachel haircut to the next.
And we liked it. And so it was. This show really, when I would watch it, at the end of every episode, I'm like, what are they going to do next?
You know what? I really felt that like the dynamic between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson as Loki and Mobius were just phenomenal. Like, so you have in Thor Ragnarok, your three main characters that aren't Jeff Goldblum are Chris Hemsworth as Thor. You've got Valkyrie. And then you got Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Valkyrie and Thor went on to make Men in Black International.
Yes.
Loki made Loki. Tom Hiddleston's Men in Black was a better Men in Black than the other two's Men in Black, which was an actual Men in Black.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Very, very true.
In terms of like weird stories, we don't know where things are going to go, but it's like a buddy cop situation applying to all this sort of stuff. I feel that's the best way I could really describe it. Loki is a Marvel Universe Men in Black kind of thing.
It was fun. It was atmospheric. It was creepy.
That retrofuturism.
quirky.
It felt like
yes,
like Disney.
Yeah, very much so. And so if anything, I felt it ended too soon.
Definitely.
I would have liked to have seen maybe one or two more episodes. It felt like all of a sudden now we're at the end. And it was a significant. I think this show plays more into what the MCU movies are going to be like, probably than the other series. I feel like there's going to be big impacts in what we're going to see in Marvel Phase 4 movies from this show than any of the other ones. So definitely go watch Loki if you haven't already.
So something that I thought was really interesting. We're so conditioned to looking for. Marvel has conditioned us for a couple of things. One of them is looking for credits and scenes after the credits.
Yeah.
So in all of them, like in WandaVision and Winter Soldier, like always fast forward a little bit just to see if there's something come up in the credits.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wow, there's 8 minutes of credits here. What's going on? Oh no, it's just all the different languages.
Yeah.
But so there are occasionally post-credit scenes in Loki, and some of them have they announced a new one, which was there will be a Loki season 2.
Yes.
Kate Herron is the showrunner for Loki.
Yeah.
And she had planned for this to be a one-season thing. So her story arc is like, yeah, this is what we did. We came out to do this. We delivered it. And seeing that little blip at the end of Loki will return for season 2 was a surprise to her. She's
Really?
like, oh, they're doing more of these. Fun. Cool. I'm not involved, but it's it's good. So it'd be interesting to see kind of where things go from there. The other thing I think Marvel has done really well is, like you're saying, people were turned off by the start of WandaVision.
Yeah.
But there wasn't as vocal a resistance to that as there is with like any DC casting issues. Because I think Marvel has also trained people to say, let's see where this goes. They got something worked out. There's a plan in place. I'm going to sit here and watch it and enjoy what comes out.
And this is really remarkable because if you go back, if you go back to like 20, 25 years ago, which isn't that long ago if you think about it.
Yeah, was it like 95?
Yeah, and before the only superhero movies that you had gotten that were any good were like the Michael Keaton Batman and the Christopher Reeve Superman, and the Marvel movies had been made by like Canon Films.
Yeah.
It was like a Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren and a Fantastic
Which should have
Four.
been better.
Which should have been better. Dolph was good, but the rest of it. There was a Fantastic Four movie by Roger Corman that never got released, and there was a Captain America movie done by like Canon Films
With the motorcycle helmet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Looks
so
like a space ball running around.
yeah, a little bit. And so not so good. And then we had the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, right? And that came out in like the mid to late 90s. But this concept of a consistent, cohesive movie narrative featuring superheroes, that is faithful and respectful to the characters and the source material is still kind of a new concept for movies. There was a point when the X-Men came out in 2000, and they're all in skin-tight black leather, and we're like, that's not accurate to the comic book, and the studio's like, no one's going to accept, these superheroes and those bright outfits, those crazy outfits.
And that's when they started having those meta throwaway lines where Wolverine is like, you want us to go fight in these? And then Cyclops is like, what would you prefer, yellow spandex?
and now you look at what we're seeing, and it feels like it's straight from the comic books.
Right.
That the comic books are a storyboard for the movies, and it's like it's come a long way and relatively a short amount of time, in the sense that this is all there's a generation watching these movies now being like, what are you talking about? There's always been superhero movies.
I think DC is figuring that out too.
Yeah.
Because Superman and Lois is a phenomenal show.
And it just wrapped up recently too.
Yeah, they just finished. Not necessarily the end of season 1, because they've had a couple of punctuated hiatuses. They've had a couple of breaks because of COVID outbreaks and things like that. But the show, in terms of the story and the heart of it, and getting back to who Superman really is, and not making him this brooding, this Batman type, they knocked it out of the park. And so, along with that, you've got James Gunn's Suicide Squad, which will be out in about 2 weeks.
Very soon,
on HBO Max and in movie theaters. And some of the initial embargo things have been lifted, so a lot of folks are saying, guys, this movie is actually really good. It's fun, it's explosive, it's nuts, you're going to enjoy it. It's like, oh my gosh, DC's finally getting on track.
Yeah.
And they had some set pictures that dropped from The Flash.
Oh, yeah.
These just dropped like 2 days ago.
Right.
And so we finally got to see Supergirl in all of her full regalia with the cape and everything like that. It looks fantastic. We saw the Batcave with the Keaton Batmobile in it, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's as we always say, it's a good time to be a nerd.
It's a good time to be a nerd.
And so these so the MCU shows, and we've got. It's really all we've had, right? We haven't had a new MCU movie in almost 2 years until Black Widow dropped, last week?
Right.
And there's a whole, next 2 years is going to be full of MCU movies dropping like every 3 months, I think.
Right.
But it's like, so fans, let us know. What's your thoughts on Loki or just the MCU shows in general? And what are you looking forward to in the upcoming movies? And do you have a preference? Do you prefer the movies to the shows?
Mm-hmm.
I like the shows. I like that we're able to learn more about characters that didn't maybe get enough screen time in the movies.
Right.
And I also like how they're using the shows to kind of set up new movies. And so on the good end, what that means is we're going to go into some movies just rocking and rolling already. They're not going to have a whole lot of setup.
Right.
On the bad end, I feel like, I never want to feel like I have to do homework to enjoy a movie. I kind of like something that is just like a set story that is like I can go in fresh and enjoy this movie and not feel like I have to have known X, Y, Z. So I would prefer that the shows just kind of add an extra layer that I would enjoy, maybe a nice aperitif to the film, but not requisite viewing.
If Loki was your first introduction to anything Marvel related, do you think you'd enjoy it as much?
I don't know, because I would have to have.
There's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff, like
that I would have
Thor
missed.
Frog, or Throg as they call him,
Yeah.
jumping in the bottle in the one scene in the Void. I don't think people would have gotten that, nor would they have understood the Thanos copter as like a crazy Easter egg throwback. So
No, they probably all would have gone over my head, right? And I think Loki did a good job in that first episode to set up, because they did do things like they did clips from the earlier movies.
Right.
So I think you had what you needed to understand the character, and they did such a great job setting a new course. And I do think the Loki show is going to send shockwaves through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we'll see what happens in the movies. But it is interesting to use it as a good springboard to the films. I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the films and how the shows and the movies coexist, and because they all live in the same timeline, right?
Right.
They all exist. It's not like what we've had. Was it DC goes, the DC shows have no impact on the DC movies, the DC comics have no impact on the shows, but
So
this
the
is all
shows,
one happy family.
Yeah, all the shows and movies are getting as convoluted as the comics were back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so they did a couple of big events to kind of wipe the slate clean and retcon everything. So now we're getting into the retcon eras of all this kind of stuff.
All right, we've got some comments, so let's dive in and see what we got.
So our buddy Mike Van Vlanderen has joined us here to say, I love superhero movies, and I still feel like I'm the only guy who liked Justice League, but I'm at my saturation point.
Oh.
I need a break from the superhero stuff for a little while. And it's like, all right, totally, I get it, I understand.
And breaking from the superhero stuff is a nice segue into our next topic.
Right.
Because we were talking about Black Widow. It was a color. Black Widow.
It's Scarlett's the one who did it.
Yeah, Scarlett's the one that did it.
ScarJo.
I meant to do that.
ScarJo, Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow just dropped this last week after over a year of delays.
Yep.
And it dropped in theaters and on Disney Plus. I have not had the pleasure to watch it yet.
Neither have
Though I hear good things, but there is a big movie that dropped in theaters that you did check out,
Yes.
and it was a return to the movies.
Back to the movies. The popcorn. The sticky floors.
The people behind you that won't stop talking about what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
The kid with the flashlight walking up and down the hallway. The baby screaming in the front row where you're like, why is there a baby in this movie?
I'll tell you, there was one guy like, so the movie we're talking about is Fast 9 or F9 if you're looking to type it on your keyboard in a single scroll. So I got a media preview pass to go see Fast 9 and give my hot takes on the latest Dom Toretto adventure. And I will tell you, Jeff, I'm not what you would consider a fan of that particular series. I get it. I understand it. Cars go fast. The people driving them are often furious. And it's like the opposite of I-4, which is the slow and the furious. But it's... So I was at the Target demo for this. I was going to this, though, because in an effort to get people back into the movies and get people excited about going to the theaters again, Universal and Colin Trevorrow attached 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes of Jurassic World Dominion were attached to the front of F9.
So this is the big Jurassic World sequel that's going to come out next summer.
Correct.
All right.
And kind of ties everything together. It's Jurassic World 3 or Jurassic Park 6, however you want to describe it.
Because it's got Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill in it, in addition to Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Correct.
All right.
And everybody who's anybody is in this movie right now.
Yes.
So if they had a role at some point in the Jurassic franchise and they're still alive, they showed up.
So it's kind of like Love American style Jurassic Park edition.
There you go.
All
there
right.
you go.
Okay.
And it's got the introduction of some new dinosaurs and some really good paleontology in the back end of it, making sure everything looks closer to our current understanding. So I was super excited to see this. In this particular showing, I was treated to a trailer for M. Night Shyamalan's Old.
Oof.
Instead of the dinosaur movie that
But this morning he was 6 years old.
And I feel
You know what I feel like? I feel like M. Night Shyamalan's Old is pretty much just a PSA for sunscreen.
That's it.
You know? Get out of the sun. It makes you look old. All right.
You know, my favorite thing to do in any M. Night Shyamalan movie is to guess the ending in the first 6 minutes, fast forward to see if I'm right, and then realize, you know, I wasted 6 minutes. So
yes.
Jurassic World Dominion was not available in the preview that I wanted to see.
So the whole reason you went for this movie, the whole anticipation, the excitement, was not there.
It was not there.
So did you get up and walk out, or did you decide I'm gonna give it a shot?
No, I didn't, because this was a special showing, and they wanted feedback from the media about, like, how was the story, how would you describe it? You know, the quotes that they put and the number star ratings they do for all those things. This is where they farm those.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so I'm like, I'm here. I drove an hour and a half to get to this. I'm gonna sit this through.
All right.
And maybe get an introduction to the story, because the last Fast and Furious I saw was Tokyo Drift.
Okay.
And so it was all about driving cars and racing and like these supercars and the tuners.
And see if they could sustain that narrative over another half a dozen movies.
While also using your very fast supercars to commit heists and robberies and things like that. So it's bad people doing cool things because family.
Got it.
But it's evolved over time to just be this basically G.I. Joes and Hot Wheels. Like if you had a toy box full of cars and G.I. Joes and you threw it, the characters floating midair as a Fast and Furious movie.
I got it.
So, again, I was not a fan of the series. I enjoyed the movie, but there were some significant logical conceits.
Really?
Yeah, so...
And again, we are people that embrace the concept of superpowered humans putting on their long underwear and fighting crime.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, because you're setting me up for a world where such a thing exists.
Okay.
But if you're telling us that this is the real world, if you are in the desert and then for some reason there is a lush jungle canyon and a rope bridge has been there for 500 years, this is an old, antique, non-maintained thing. I don't think it's going to hold a Camaro going 90 miles an hour, swinging across it like Tarzan. And then, starting from point A, get you somehow to a higher point B.
Yeah.
Because that's just not, it's not how the physics work. But then at one point, you know how Elon Musk put his Tesla up into orbit?
Yes.
And it was a huge money-making endeavor because a lot of technology had to go into making sure the rocket was going to work before they got the car out there. So it turns out you can just do that with a Tercel.
Good to know.
Because family.
You could put a wrapper and a model on the inside of a Tercel and just have it in space because it's funny.
NASA needs to talk to Vin Diesel. That's all I got to say.
Oh, this is ludicrous.
Oh, is this ludicrous?
Is ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
It was ludicrous.
It is ludicrous. That's why. That's why. That's why they did it.
Yeah. But it was fun. It was good. It was something that is a different kind of movie that I would otherwise enjoy. The people around me were eating it all up.
Yeah.
And I could tell when there were inside jokes happening or callbacks.
Yeah.
Because I would see something and then 300 people would just start laughing and that's a reference to something else.
That means something.
I know that means something.
All right. So it was a good time at the movie. Good summer popcorn munching fun at the movies.
Yeah, it was fine. The popcorn went down easy, and I was very excited to.
Were you excited to be back in a movie theater again after a year and a half of not?
Let me tell you why I wasn't.
Okay. Why were you not excited to be back at the movie?
Because the things you enjoy about it, you like the idea of, okay, we got the popcorn, it's a whole experience, we're around people, it's cool, we're all experiencing this thing. When the crowd is feeling that emotion, you've got that group thing. Everyone's excited, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
But you still had this one schmuck who's over here on his phone. The phone goes off a couple of times. The media people said, if your phone goes off, we're taking you out. We're taking your phone away because it's a pre-release of everything, so we can't have anything going. So turn your phone off, not even airplane mode. So this guy's phone's going off like 4 or 5 times. Like, bro.
Yeah.
And then the seating is staged in such a way that everyone has a clear view.
Yeah.
Which means the person a row and a half behind you, if they're feeling a little gassy, it's right here.
So it's just wafting.
It was wafting.
So a little bit of smell of it. That was exhaust, man. It was smell of it.
No,
Yeah.
he was hitting the nos on that one.
was hitting the nos
hitting
a
the
little
nitro.
a little too liberally, huh?
Oh God, it was good.
Alrighty.
So the worst things about the movie experience are still very much there and have been biding their time.
Okay.
But the good stuff in the movie was also good.
All right. Well, we
Mike
got some-
joins
yes,
back in and says,
okay.
anything involving Vin Diesel must suspend all logic and reality. Just enjoy the adrenaline and bravado. # family. And he's like, yeah, Mike, you're 100%
good.
right.
Very good, Mike. Thank
Absolutely
you.
correct.
That is very good insight. Are any other comments that we need to respond to, or is Mikey V pretty much leading the way?
No, right. That's about all. We're caught up at the moment, but
Okay.
by all means, we love to hear your responses.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were talking about beforehand was what was the first movie you wanted to go back to the theater for?
Yes.
Because there were a couple of really interesting contenders that were due to come out.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to either seeing Black Widow or Ghostbusters as the first movie back in the theater.
Right.
But what about yourself?
Well, it's all changed so much, right?
Yeah.
And because originally, when this all happened, the movies that were supposed to come out this summer or last summer, right? The movies that were supposed to come out summer of 2020, they were Black Widow, Top Gun 2, Ghostbusters, Fast 9, we were supposed to get we were supposed to get a new James Bond movie.
That was the litmus test for this whole thing.
Yeah.
The new Bond movie was supposed to come out. And who had on your bingo card possible outcome, you know what? Screw it. Amazon's going to buy all of MGM.
Exactly. Yeah, and one of the biggest movies of summer 2020 was Chris Nolan's Tenet.
Yep.
We were all looking forward to Tenet.
Yep.
Well, Tenet and Wonder Woman 2 was supposed to come out summer of 2020.
Yes.
These were the movies of summer of 2020. Tenet was the one that came out, and it came out in theaters, and like 3 people saw it in the theater.
It's on HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen it.
And I think, and honestly, I think streaming will probably be kinder to Tenet. I know Chris Nolan shot it all in IMAX cameras, so that theater experience, and God bless Warner Brothers, I think they kept it in theaters for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Because, there was nothing else that they were showing in theaters. But I hear it's a complicated narrative, so. So I haven't gotten a chance to see that. So the movies that I was looking most forward to see back in the theaters, there really hasn't been a movie yet that motivate me to go back into theaters. And we had that big split, right, with HBO Max taking their films, debuting them on the same day in theaters and on streaming. So that's how I watched Wonder Woman 2. Mm-hmm. That's how I watched Godzilla vs. King Kong.
Right.
And
That's a big movie. That's a big theater movie.
That's a movie that you should see in the theater, because quite honest, I don't think the small screen does it justice.
There are some really strong set dressings for
Well,
IMAX.
and that's the thing, Godzilla vs. King Kong, it's kind of tons of dumb, and I can see seeing it as in the community experience on the giant screen with the hot buttered popcorn would have been a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have fixated on all the dumbness like I did when watching it at home.
There were a couple of scenes in Godzilla vs. Kong that if you were watching it in IMAX, these guys would be life size. And that would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
Like the really up close shots of
honestly,
Kong and
I
Godzilla.
think Godzilla vs. Kong should have been like a 20-minute short, and it should have just been Kong and Godzilla duking it out. All the other stuff didn't really matter a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So, the movie that may get me back into the theater is Suicide Squad. I may actually get out into the theater to see Suicide Squad. As much as a MCU fan as I am, I'm still not ready to go out and see Black Widow in the theater. I think I'm gonna wait until until it comes on as a Disney Plus subscriber. I can see it without a premium.
Yeah. So we both have HBO Max. You'll see Suicide Squad in the theater. Will you also watch it in streaming, or are you going to wait to see it on the big screen first?
I do not know. I think it's going to depend on how much what am I trying to say? How much the withdrawal symptoms, right? Because I'm a big James Gunn fan. I'm actually a big Suicide Squad fan. I collected Suicide Squad comics back when they came out. I remember when the first issue came out, 30 years ago, and it was this novel concept of you were
superhero team made of bad guys.
Yeah, it was like the superhero team as Dirty Dozen, and you had talked about retconning, right? How DC cleaned house and organized all their heroes because they had all these conflicting universes and characters. And that was a series called Crisis on Infinite Earths that happened in like the late 80s. Following Crisis on Infinite Earths that kind of consolidated all the DC universe in one universe. We're going deep nerd here, so hang on, people. They launched a lot of new series, and they rebooted a lot of new series at that time. And one of these series was Suicide Squad, which took all these third-tier villains like Polka Dot Man and King Shark and Captain Boomerang, and put them on this like Dirty Dozen squad on these suicide missions, and some of them didn't make it back. And this is how they were cleaning house in the crappy villain category. And so, what was it, 5 years ago when they rolled out the Suicide Squad movie, I was really kind of optimistic about it because I remember how much fun that comic book was. Well, I wasn't a huge fan of the Suicide Squad movie. The biggest Margot Robbie was the reason to watch that movie, it was kind of goofy. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. A lot of style over substance. So basically, a modern big screen movie. But now they've got James Gunn, who made his name in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, who is good at story, good at character, good at humor, good at making these big movies. And even before Guardians of the Galaxy, he made a movie called Slither.
Yeah, Slither was so good.
Which is a low-budget horror sci-fi flick, which is just a lot of fun. Definitely check out Slither if you haven't seen it before. He was also
but after lunch.
And not while you're taking a leisure bath.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Slither has Nathan Fillion in it from Firefly. It has Elizabeth Banks in it. It has Michael Rooker in it, who also was in the Guardians movies and Mallrats.
As Mary Poppins.
Yes, y'all. And James Gunn also was the screenwriter of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
So he's got huge cred in the geek world, and they tapped him to do this new Suicide Squad movie, and so
because DC wanted Suicide Squad went up against Guardians of the Galaxy before.
Yes.
And they were hoping that with the familiarity of Harley Quinn and the illusion of maybe Joker and Batman were going to show up, that would overpower this talking raccoon that nobody heard of.
Yeah.
And they were very wrong.
They were very, very wrong.
So they're okay, let's get the guy who did that.
Yeah.
And see if he can make that lightning strike.
Well, and
a third
it
time.
does feel that when DC hired James Gunn to do Suicide Squad, it was kind of sending a message. Okay, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're going to get serious here, and so I'm very optimistic for this movie. What I've seen that they've rolled out already looks like a lot of fun. Great cast. It looks extreme. It looks funny. So this may be the movie that gets me into the theater.
Awesome.
But also, yeah, the nerdness is strong within me. I may not be able to hold out, so I may end up watching it on HBO Max. We'll see. The other movie that I'm actually really interested in checking out is Disney's Jungle Cruise with Emily Blunt, Emily Blunt and The Rock, and I hearken back to when the first Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out, right?
Yeah.
We were all talking smack about it. What are you doing, making a movie out of a theme park ride? Johnny Depp as the lead character. Oh, this looks dumb. This is going to be a train wreck. This is just crass commercialism thrown up on the screen. And holy cannoli, it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
And so there are some movies that come out in the summer that, you know, you just feel like summer. You know, you want to sit in a dark room with a bunch of strangers munching popcorn or watching something silly roll out on screen. And I feel like Jungle Cruise is going to be like that. And the other thing is Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. The Rock, you can smell what he's cooking. Yep. And it's like he hasn't delivered really an unenjoyable movie yet. You know, it's not all been...
This is true.
Not been Shakespeare. You know, it's not been... You know, it's not been Schindler's List, but that's not why we're going to the theater when we watch his stuff anyway. It's always been fun, and so I think it kind of has that Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe. You know, it just looks like fun. So we'll see if I venture forth into the movie theater
To the Jungle Cruise.
To the Jungle Cruise. Now, there's one movie that just came out that's not going to be in movie theaters, and it just dropped on Netflix over on Friday.
Yeah.
Before we talk about that, any other comments that we need to get back to?
Mike said, I bought a 75-inch TV during the pandemic. I got a popcorn maker. Honestly, I've got less desire to be in the theater, all things considered. So he's found a way to stream merrily.
Yes. And you know what, Mike? I think you're talking for a bunch.
Yeah.
Of movie fans, and I think this is the future of movie going.
Yep.
I don't think we're ever going to return now to this thing of there are movies that go in the theater and then there are movies on streaming. I think they've joined together. I don't think we're going to see that distinction. I think we're going to see theatrical releases simultaneously with streaming releases, or we're going to see theatrical releases and then in a month see them happen in streaming. I think there's going to be this toggling, or do I get it as a subscriber, or do I pay a premium for it, and then after 3 months I get it as part of my subscription. But I think you're right. I think, and it's not all the pandemic. I think this is just the evolution of consuming movies that was happening long before this happened. I just think COVID kind of
Forced a lot of hands for these
accelerated it. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think some of this also plays into what you were talking about. People are tired of the rudeness. People are tired of the guys talking on the cell phone, and tired of people not just letting the movie happen, and tired of paying, you know, if I'm going to pay $20 to see this and have this guy yakking in my ear, I'd rather just pay $20 to download it and watch it at home.
And if you've got a 75-inch screen like Mike does, or you get a HomePod or something like that, so you've got really good audio quality at your house, the theater doesn't necessarily have too much that's different anymore. Like
Yeah.
the home theater technology has caught up.
Yeah.
We've got our own Dolby Digital surround now.
No,
So,
that's,
you know,
that's very,
you
very
can,
true. I think it comes back to what are we wanting as an audience,
Right.
and there are some of us that kind of want that communal experience. You know,
Yeah.
we still want that feeling of sitting around the campfire sharing stories together. You know, and I think there is a portion of the audience that is always going to look for that experience to remove themselves from the everyday, to physically go to a place where they can be transported by this experience. But I don't think it's going to be like it was before, and I don't think it's going to be to the extent that it was before.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
All right.
So let's talk about this other movie that you saw
Yes.
last Friday. It's
Yes.
called Gunpowder Milkshake.
Gunpowder Milkshake. It just dropped on Netflix. This is a movie that's got a pretty hot cast. I mean, this is Karen Gillan, who is Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. This is Lena Headey from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
This is Angela Bassett, Michelle Yeoh from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
And the Star Trek Discovery show. This is Carla Gugino from Sin City
Okay.
and Watchmen. Paul Giamatti from that action fest Sideways. But this is a movie that would not exist if not for John Wick and Atomic Blonde. It's one of those hyperkinetic action movies,
Interesting.
kind of violence as choreography kind of movies.
Yeah.
And so Karen Gillan plays this assassin who's working for this, secret shadow organization that's pulling the strings, and she gets in over her head and has to fight her way out. And so it's got a great cast. It's got that hyperkinetic, a surreal kind of hyper violence that we've seen in
Sure.
movies like John Wick and Atomic Blonde. It's a very stylized movie, but it's all built around this female cast, and so it's got a lot of atmosphere. It definitely keeps moving. So this is a movie that I saw promoted a few months ago on trailers after Netflix acquired it.
Yeah.
And so I was super interested because I'm a big fan of this entire cast, and so really curious to get in to see what it was all about. So I watched it this weekend and just curious if anybody out there, Mike or any of our other followers, have gotten a chance to watch Gunpowder Milkshake, so you can share your thoughts. I did share this on the page yesterday to see if anybody had seen it, and Gail Green, who's one of our Nerdspresso followers, who is a good college friend of mine, got to see it, and she certainly enjoyed it as well. I mean, the script is not Shakespeare, but again,
Sure.
this is not why we go to watch these movies anyway.
Well, it looks really interesting. So it's definitely when you think of here's an all-female cast with like guns and violence stuff involved, your mind has a tendency to go to a Charlie's Angels kind of feel, but
Yeah.
that's not what this is.
No, this is really more in the vein of
Like a Desperado. kind of
yeah,
thing.
and yeah, very Desperado is a good. Kill Bill
Yeah.
is another good way to look at it. I kind of really equate this to if John Wick and Atomic Blonde
Yeah.
got married and had a baby, and that daughter grew up to live with some aunts in Sin City,
Yeah.
it would be Gunpowder Milkshake.
Well, from the poster, it looks like how Stella got her 12 gauge back.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
So Gunpowder Milkshake, huh?
I think it's worth checking out. It's hyper stylized, so it's worth it's
gonna be fun.
It's worth looking at. Here's the other thing that I noticed, and probably because I'm a big movie nerd, and maybe also because I spent the last year just voraciously consuming streaming content.
Yeah.
You start to notice certain things, and maybe it's because it's a smaller screen, so you can pay that much more attention, or you can rewind and watch it.
More of the details.
Yeah,
in
more of
birth.
the details, right? I noticed, I watched this and I'm like, this movie was not made in the United States. And it's like, you look at it, it's like the buildings, the license plates on the cars, and it's like, is this a conscious stylistic choice,
Oh, interesting.
or that. I just looked at it, I was like, all right, this looks like it was shot in like Germany or Poland. It just how it had this Eastern European feel to it. And so I watched the credits. Yeah, it was shot in Germany.
How about that?
Shot in Germany.
Was it pretending to be the U.S. though?
It was pretending to be the U.S.
I love when movies do that.
Yeah.
Another one that did that was a movie called It Follows.
Okay.
It was like a teen horror flick / analog for practicing safe sex.
Yes,
like that.
Yes. Wait till you're married, or we'll get you.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
idea was like here's this monster that can only be transmitted from one person to another, and then it just follows you. So. Whatever this monster is, it's just tracking you down and it's trying to kill you. You can stave off your own death at the hand of this monster by transmitting it to someone else through a moment of passion. And then, like the monster's list is like, okay, all right, I got to get to this guy. It's like adding a destination in Google Maps. It's like, all right, okay, I was coming for Eric, but I'm going to go find Kaylee first. And then when Kaylee's done, I'm going to go back to Eric again. And so it's like you kind of push it down the line. The movie was really stylistically put together because you don't know what setting, time, or era they're actually in. Because the cars are from the 70s and the 50s and 2010. The people are dressed in like fall clothes, but there's also a pool party involved. They're not using cell phones for things like that, but there's also like GPS and it's like, when is this movie supposed to be taking place?
Yeah.
And it's kind of keeping you on. It adds to the confusion that you feel because you know that something is off at the same point in time. So like watching someone walking around in a wool knit sweater and a scarf while kids are splashing in a pool behind them, it's like something's wrong with this picture and it's making me uncomfortable. But I can't put my finger on it, and it keeps you on that edge for the rest of the movie. So that could be a really elegant tool to use.
Well, and there's a lot to be said for it creates a sense of time and place without confirming
Right.
time and place,
Right.
which can make it feel like timeless, but also like its own little universe.
Yeah.
And so this movie
pocket dimension.
This movie definitely has like a Sin City feel to it. Like
Gotcha.
it's like its own place, and it definitely has settings that feel like it's in the 50s versus things that happen right away. I mean, there's a lot of movies it's going to remind you of. They're not breaking any new ground here beyond the fact that it is all female cast.
Right.
But it is very stylized. The fight choreography is very creative. It is going to remind you of these other movies.
But it sounds like it's a movie that's fun enough that it might just live on forever. We might be talking about this movie in another 25, 30
You know
years.
what? We'll see. You never know. It is, and if it does, it's because the cast is so good.
Yeah.
It is a great cast. And the thing that it reminds me, and I saw this also a little bit with Kill Bill, also with the movie The Kingsman, and definitely with like John Wick. This hyper violence, right? The big scenes where I'm one person versus 100 people, and here's my slow motion how I'm going to take everybody out in the most graphic way possible, and it's just that hyper violence, gunshot ballet choreography kind of thing is. Why it's surreal and intense. My concern is, as a visual language in movies, are we getting really comfortable with it? Is it losing its impact, right? To the point where we just go, oh yeah, it's another one where they somersault over somebody while shooting somebody in the head, stabbing them in the stomach, and then breaking a plate over their, and so
That's a classic 147 right there.
yeah, exactly. We call that move the John Wick.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder if these kind of scenes are losing their impact.
Yeah.
And then I also get a little nervous just, putting my dad hat on. Are we desensitizing a generation of people to this extreme violence? So that not that one person takes on, 100 thugs at once with like 245s in the real world, but when we hear about this awful stuff in the news, are we just a little less outraged or concerned about it because we just watched a movie where they took out 100 people at one time.
You know, I hear where you're coming from, and I know that there's a certain amount of desensitization, but they make that same claim for video games. I grew up playing violent video games, but now you don't see me out here chucking frogs into traffic. You know,
Yeah.
'cause that stuff is, you know, we can separate the fact and the fiction on those.
Right,
But you're right. Some movies, like, they have such an intense, visceral reaction to what you're seeing that it's something that never really goes away. So, and then actually we're celebrating a couple of those movies.
Yes, good point.
Right this week that have stayed with the cultural lexicon for a very long time. So, Aliens,
Yes.
James Cameron's tour de
Yes,
force about
yes.
Vietnam and motherhood.
Yes, yes. You and I have read the same articles. And it came out 35 years ago today.
Wow,
Yeah, Nerdspresso salute.
fantastic.
And we are still talking about Aliens to this day. In my opinion, this is James Cameron's masterpiece.
It really is.
This is the best movie that James Cameron ever made, and he's made some good ones. And I actually just recently watched Terminator 2. And you know what? It's still got some great action stuff in it, but the movie doesn't age as well as I'd like it to.
The CGI in Terminator 2 was the first time they could really push to see what they could actually do. That was like the Jurassic Park of
Yeah,
CGI
yeah.
movies to say what is physical. Because of T2, we got Jurassic Park.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are certain things that don't necessarily hold up.
The dialogue is hokey, you know. Edward Furlong, God bless you, but I just cringe when I hear some of that dialogue and his performance.
Fun little connection between the
Yeah.
two. The stepmom
Yeah.
from Aliens.
Yes.
The one who is like, when they says, what is the dog's name? Baxter. Mom, what's wrong with Wolfie? Wolfie's fine. And your parents are dead. That whole scene. The stepmom from Aliens was Vasquez. I'm sorry. The stepmom from T2 was Vasquez in Aliens. So like the super tough, the tough soldier with the smart gun.
Yeah. Hey, Vasquez, you ever been confused for a guy? No, hombre, have you? Yeah.
I just need to know one thing.
Yes.
Where they are.
Yeah, she was awesome.
She was badass.
Yeah. But I think I'm with you. I think like Aliens just works on a number of levels. The characters were awesome. They had great chemistry. The great unit. It's a tight story, you know.
A lot of those lines have become like game over, man, game over. That's intrinsic to
nuke it from orbit.
And then I love the post that you put up because if you follow Nerdspresso on Instagram, Jeff puts most of those posts up. So there's some really great things that are on there. And you also see them here on the Facebook as well. But I mostly speak in
obscure
cliché
sci-fi
references.
movies. Yes.
Mostly.
Yes. Coming back, so Alien celebrates 35 years, premiered July 18th, 1986.
Wow.
I saw this in the theater.
Yeah.
I'm really that darn old. And I went, I was in high school. I went with my high school girlfriend. I was just now old enough to see rated R movies without faking it.
There you go.
This was like the second R-rated movie I saw in the movie theater without looking over my shoulder to see if someone was going to pull me out. I saw this movie at a theater called the Winter Park Triple, which is now like a world gym.
Sure.
It was, and this theater was known because I think it was the only movie theater in town that had a 70 millimeter screen. It had two 35 millimeters.
That's really small though.
Yeah, well, it was big.
People huddled around it like an old-timey radio.
Yeah, well, 35 years ago was a big deal. It was like the other theaters.
70 millimeters. Watch the entire picture right there.
Well, it was big. Whatever the cinematic version was for big.
No, so it's 70 millimeters up here, but then it got bigger.
Yeah, it got bigger.
Okay, and I'm following
it
how
was like
movies
big.
work
It
now.
was big. It was big. It's like whatever the translation was, movie people.
Like a giant 13-inch screen.
Yeah, but back in 1986, this was a big deal. It was twice the size of every other theater, man.
Sure.
So that's where you went, and like nowadays, when you're like, oh, I got to see this movie in IMAX.
Yeah.
You had to go to the Winter Park Triple to see it in this 70 millimeter screen.
That's awesome.
So that's where we saw it, and it was the first movie I ever remember being on the edge of my seat watching.
Yeah.
I remember gripping the handrest when Ripley is facing off against the alien queen
Yep.
after rescuing Newt, and the movie is just so well put together. And you know, it's like, I remember when they said they were going to make a sequel to Alien, and it's like, how do you make a sequel to Alien? Don't do that.
Yep.
And it's like, but he took that concept and built on it and made something new. And then other people came along for about 4 more movies and just totally diluted the impact.
Yeah.
But no, Aliens, great flick, celebrates 35 years today. But this summer celebrates a lot of big milestones. We had some 40th anniversaries, and it's hard to believe, but we had 40 years ago this summer, Raiders of the Lost Ark premiered. And
That's crazy.
And that's a game changer. How many movies do we watch today that can owe, you know, their genesis to Raiders of the Lost Ark? And again, showing I am really darn old, I saw this movie in the movie theater. And I remember having my mind blown in a way that I hadn't had my mind blown since Star Wars. I knew that I was seeing something, even at, you know, as a kid, I was seeing something that I'd never seen before.
It's hard to believe that Raiders of the Lost Ark is now turning 40 years old.
Yes.
And it's only been this year that I actually got to take a close look at that fertility idol, and yikes.
Hey. Well, now it matters.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it was for me, it was like watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like, this is like an old movie made with, you know, but it's new.
Yeah.
You know, and their inspiration was like the old serials,
Adventure serials and things like that.
and but
Swashbuckling and
you know,
daring do.
But it was like, this is a movie kind of like Aliens. It's tight.
Mm-hmm.
It never stops moving. It is, you know, the narrative is very well thought out. It I just remember it was such a good time at the movies. I don't know, and you know what, the sequels just can't measure up to the impact of that first one, because that first movie, it's solid, and you know, then the other movie, you know, you're very much aware you're watching a franchise and watching the other movies.
See,
But-
I saw Temple of Doom before I ever saw Raiders. And so that was always the, if adventure has a name, it must be Indiana
Yeah.
Jones. And so I loved Temple of Doom as like a standalone thing. And then when I saw Raiders years and years later, I was like, oh, okay, I get how like, all these things are kind of putting together, and everything's all this ongoing dramatic view of historical events, and like the dealings with Hitler and things like that, and all the stuff with the Nazis. It was really interesting to kind of see it all come together. And then even in the modern movies, we still have those moments. There was in Captain America, the first Avenger, there's the scene when Red Skull first gets the Tesseract, and he looks at it and goes, and Zafira looks for trinkets in the desert. It's like, yeah, of course he's talking about Raiders. Why not?
Yeah, and you know what's also interesting is that movie was directed by Joe Johnston, who was in the art department of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Was he really?
Yes.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
And so it's very true, and it's very, very true. And I do get a Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe from watching Captain America: The First Adventure.
Not a Jurassic Park 3 vibe, though.
No, very much, or a Honey I Shrunk the Kids vibe.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, when you're watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know you feel you're on an event. You're watching a movie. It definitely it's definitely a story that sucks you in. You're transported. You're blown away. You watch Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, you'd feel like you're at a theme park. You know, it's more an experience. I enjoy the Indiana Jones movies, but definitely Raiders of the Lost Ark was a game changer. The other movie that premiered summer of 1981 that I have great affection for, Escape from New York.
Oh, wow.
Kurt Russell, directed by John Carpenter. in the far future of 1997, when the crime rate has risen 400%, and
Isaac Hayes is the Duke of New York.
yes, as the Duke, #1.
Yeah.
And Adrian Barbeau, Harry Dean Stanton, Donald Pleasance as the president, Lee Van Cleef as the guy who runs the prison. Manhattan Island has become a maximum security prison. This anarchist group has hijacked Air Force One and crashed it in New York City, which now post 9/11, that moment seems a lot different.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell plays Snake Plissken, who is a mercenary who was busted robbing the Federal Reserve, and he is given a chance at amnesty if he will go in to New York and bring the president out. This movie is just, it's a guilty pleasure. It is a B movie at its best. It's just a lot of fun, in it, and it's macho and dark and it's just for me it's just
a great
fun
dystopian adventure.
Yes.
And it's inspired a couple of other things as well. So one of the most enduring video game franchises over the last 40 years has been something called Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And Metal Gear started off as a game for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, where it was very much about espionage action. And this was one of the games that helped to coin the term Nintendo Hard, because the game was exceptionally difficult, and you didn't have tons of guns, you didn't have infinite ammo. If you found a weapon at any given point, you had like 4 shots, and you had to make them count. But so you would have to go around and sneak up behind different guards and try not to get seen. It's gone from the Metal Gear games to across PlayStation and multiple different franchises. They didn't make a movie or anything about it, but the game played like movies. Like, they were very elaborate, deep stories. And the main character's name is Solid Snake. And he is this deep cover espionage guy with an eye patch. Mm-hmm. And the developers said, oh no, we were heavily inspired by Snake Plissken. We wanted to bring him as a playable character, basically. So that Kurt Russell as Snake, the mercenary who can do anything, has carried over into other media, and it's been something that's been sticking around for a long time.
It's just I watched this movie last weekend because it was last Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
Was the 40th anniversary
Yeah.
of the premiere of Escape from New York. This one I did not see in the movie theater.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, because it kind of scared me a little bit. Plus, it was rated R, and I couldn't get anyone
wasn't
to take.
that time yet.
I couldn't get anyone to take me.
Did you ever see Escape from LA?
I did see Escape from LA, and I wish I hadn't. Escape from LA is just, it's a guilty pleasure movie as well.
Yeah.
But it's just cheesy. It's just it's not a worthy follow-up to Escape from New York.
I remember there was one scene out of that I did like, and it was like one quick shot when, because it's the same kind of idea. New York was separated and became like its own Alcatraz.
Yes.
And so then after the big one, most of California fell off into the ocean.
Right.
And so in order to get to Los Angeles, where the president's daughter was being held, Snake has to go undercover and has to go swimming through. And there's a part when he's dodging through everything underwater in like a personal submarine, like one of those guided bobber things.
Yeah.
And then a big shark comes and gets at him. And you're like, where'd the shark come from? And then he goes past, and you see the Universal Studios Hollywood sign. It's like, oh, that was Jaws.
Yeah.
From the Jaws ride, just firing off at him.
Yeah. No, it was like it's like Escape from LA. It's also kind of interesting, right? Because Escape from New York is like dark and gritty.
Yeah.
And Escape from LA
Has a basketball scene.
Yeah, it's over the top and it's garish.
Yeah.
A little bit tacky, kind of like LA.
Yeah.
So it's like they kind of reflect their two cities. There was apparently a proposed third sequel that was going to be called Escape from Earth that would have put Snake Plissken in space. And they just apparently
thought you
never
don't go
got
to
around.
space for like until your sixth or seventh sequel. Like,
Well, you know, John Carpenter doesn't do anything halfway.
Because I
so.
mean, you don't go to space until like Jason 10 or Fast 9.
or Mission Impossible 7.
Yeah, you gotta hit a few other continents locally
Yeah.
on the dirt ball before you
Yeah.
can start going out into space.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just you're grasping a little too
Yeah.
much.
I just I just remember being a kid and playing with the other neighborhood kids, and I remember a couple of guys talking about that they got to see Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And then I remember much later, in my early 20s, you know, one of my first friends who moved out on his own, and it's like, hey, I got my own place, and he shared a house with this guy. This guy, and I don't know where my friend met him. I think they worked together, but this guy owned the house, but he was kind of, you know, he was kind of like Jabba the Hutt. Because I came over one time after my friend had moved. I came over and I was like, oh, hey, Jeff, this is Rodney. And Rodney goes, Bo Shooter. You know, he's like sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Like the entire couch. And he had more VHS tapes than I'd ever seen in my entire life, like just floor to ceiling VHS tapes and a giant screen TV. And I think he was watching Escape from New York, and so that kind of imprinted on me. And so I did not see. That may have been the first time I actually saw Escape from New York, and then over the years have gotten to watch it and appreciated it. And as everybody knows, if you follow Nerdspresso, we have a thing called Imaginary Celebrity Bros, who are guys or actors or characters that we would like to hang out with, that we think would be fun. And definitely, Kurt Russell is definitely an Imaginary Celebrity Bro.
Russell.
Yes, Nerdspresso salute. Escape from New York. Now the other movie, and another movie that features two Imaginary Celebrity Bros, celebrated 30 years this week since it premiered, and this is, you know, 100% pure adrenaline. Point Break. Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, premiered summer of 1991.
That's crazy.
This is the bank robbing surfers. Keanu Reeves is Johnny Utah, and the rookie FBI agent that infiltrates the surfing bank robbing extreme sports gang, led by the surfing guru Bodhi, played by Patrick Swayze. This movie, I vividly remember. This one I saw in the movie theater, and I did not just see it in a movie theater. As I have said multiple times, my favorite summer job was working in a movie theater.
Right.
As a teen. I worked in a movie theater all through high school and the first year of college, and then after I graduated, came back to Orlando, and I still had friends working in the movie theater. One of which was Dollar Bill, the swag master.
Right.
He was working at the movie theater. He invited me to come to an employee screening of Point Break. Now, this sounds really exclusive and glamorous, but let me tell you what an employee screening consists of. This happens usually after midnight on a Thursday evening, and it's just so back in the day, before everything was digital and came on servers, the movies came in cans, and they were delivered, they were shipped to the theater, and they came in multiple reels in these big metal cans. And then the projectionist had to assemble those cans. Now, if you watch Fight Club, you can remember that Brad Pitt was a projectionist, and he had to put the movies together, and he would cut in subliminal frames. Well, this is the thing. You assemble the film. So, Dollar Bill was a projectionist, and he would assemble the movie, and then you would have to screen it to make sure it was assembled properly and there were no defects in the film. So they would invite the employees to sit in and watch the movie. So this was summer of 1991. I had just graduated from college, and I can remember vividly hanging out in the employee parking lot, which is, where the dumpster was.
Yeah.
And, it was just out the back seat, and we're all sitting around the parking lot. We're drinking Keystone beer out of the cardboard case, by the dumpster, probably eating a bag of nacho chips that were pilfered from the back of concessions, waiting for the theater to close up so we can go in and watch it. And I remember watching Point Break, at 12:30, 1 a.m. on a Thursday night with maybe like a dozen other people, employees of this movie theater, watching it, and just overwhelmed by the sheer broness of this movie. And it's just, there's just something about Point Break that is just about, bros and testosterone and machismo. It's
the Fast and the Furious franchise, but 30 years ago.
Yeah, and it was all put together by Catherine Bigelow, and produced by James Cameron.
Full
And
circle.
it is a great summer movie. It is a great guilty pleasure movie. The empty machismo in this film. It's just, I have a lot of fond memories of it. I know Mike Van Landeren enjoys Point Break as well. So just kind of share your love of this film that celebrates 30 years this summer, and celebrating that, Johnny Utah caught his first tube this morning, sir. And the last thing I will tell you of this film, it's, Gary Busey as George Pappas, FBI, Keanu Reeves' partner, and it's, Utah, give me two meatball subs when they're on a stakeout. Utah, give me two. So, do really love this. Are you a fan of Point Break?
It's on the list.
Yeah.
One of these days we actually have to write down the list.
We do need to write down that
Because
list.
that's just my response to, no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie. So,
Yeah. Well, they tried to remake this movie in 2015, 2016, and this, no. And there's no reason. There's no reason. But Point Break is just cheesy, fun. It is like eating Taco Bell at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It's not good for you,
Yeah.
but it's enjoyable. All right, I see we've gotten some comments, so let's check those out.
Going back to the Raiders conversation, Mike joined in and said, "You could warn them if only you spoke Jovitos." Yeah. But so there was one other thing we wanted to chat about
Yes.
here today.
Yes.
And that is, we focus on all things nerdy and all these amazing, cool things that are going on. At the Science Center now,
Yes.
there's a very special exhibit that people don't necessarily would expect to see. But I've always been a huge fan of the Dino Digs Hall on the 4th floor, and you've got a bit of an expansion to Dino Digs there. You've brought in something really cool, the Pooseum.
Yes, something cool has dropped at Orlando Science Center, and we don't just talk about nerdy stuff in comic books and movies and TV shows. We also like to talk about what's out there in the world that's worth your time. And Orlando Science Center has just pushed out this fun display right next to the Dino Digs. It is about a dozen specimens of caprolites.
Coprolites. That's right.
And as you know, in addition to co-hosting Nerdspresso, Jimmy is also the creator and host of Dinosaurs Will Always Be Awesome, which is an amazing podcast, social media platform, and website. And you are the person that needs to explain what coprolites are.
I feel I can speak to the contents of this. So a coprolite, when you think of dinosaur fossils, the things that come to mind are the hard things, like your bones, your teeth, your claws, the stuff that we can dig out of the ground and get a sense of how big and how fast and all that sort of stuff. But we also, scientists look for a lot of the softer things, like the trace fossils as well. So fossils that tell us where an animal was and more about its lifestyle than opposed to just its physical structure. And these are things like footprints or skin impressions or the depictions of feathers that we can find. It tells us more about the animal. One of those really great trace fossils is coprolites, which are fossilized dinosaur poop.
Dumb.
And so when you find a coprolite, what that really tells us is, and they stand out because they look like if you if you have a neighbor who doesn't pick up after their dog, and you see these lumps around in the yard, imagine that, but much, much bigger from a much larger animal. And so these coprolites can tell us not just what animals lived in the area, but it also tells us a lot about the kind of food they ate and what really led to like their development. And so at the Museum exhibit at the Orlando Science Center, there is not just any particular dino dung. This is an earth shaker, a rule breaker, a Guinness World Record holder for the largest confirmed dinosaur coprolite, and it happens to belong to a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
It's a T-Rex turd, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a gigantic piece. I had the privilege of seeing this thing a few months ago when the original founder of the museum, George Franzen, was in town here in Orlando. And it is a massive specimen to see. So you can actually see bits of bone and little bits of like keratinized horns and pieces of teeth. So you know from the content of this that this came from a meat eater. And based on the location where it was found and the contents of the bone material on the inside, there's only a handful of creatures that lived in that particular area at that particular time and had bones as part of that diet. So we can tell, yeah, this came from a T-Rex specifically. It's a mind-blowing thing to see, and it gives you a really great insight into how these animals actually lived. I have a few specimens of coprolites myself, and it's really interesting to see, like, mine have little bits of plant matter and stuff in them, and like little ferns and the tough stuff. So you can tell that mine came from herbivore dinosaurs, and because of their shape and their size, I have a couple that came from sauropods, which is like the big long-necked dinos. And it's a really interesting thing to kind of see how well a dinosaur was doing. There's a dinosaur that we found recently in Canada, and these coprolites are so vital to understanding the way that these animals lived. This particular piece of dinosaur poop had ashes built into it, which tells us that this animal was grazing in an area after a forest fire. And if you want to see from a single lump of dinosaur trash or the dino droppings like that, to see how much of a vivid picture of a prehistoric world you can paint just from a single sample, it's a mind-blowing thing to see. So definitely check out the museum at Orlando Science Center. It is absolutely some of the coolest shit you'll see.
And you know, that is fascinating. It's truly fascinating and that you can talk about that these are time capsules.
They are, in fact.
Really a moment in time. But quite honestly, the 9-year-old boy in me just likes to say, "We're playing with poo," and it's not just dinosaur poo, but there's like shark poo and fish poo. I mean, it's a whole lot of dung.
Yes.
And it's weird. And it's unique and it's fascinating, and you can check it out at Orlando Science Center right now, all for the price of admission, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a really gorgeous thing, and when you go and check this out, you're going to be surprised at knowing what the content of the specimen on display actually is. Knowing what you're looking at, you're going to be taken aback by how beautiful the specimens actually are, because they've fossilized and they've crystallized and they've taken on all these new mineral properties. There's a lot of vibrant colors and things to them, and it's you look at it, it's like, wow, this is. I have a friend up in Canada who actually makes jewelry out of coprolites. So you can have a set of coprolite earrings and a matching necklace that will help you to stand out and have other people stand far away.
Which reminds me of this SNL sketch from a few years ago, which they did a commercial for Glitter Litter, which is how you can turn your cat's droppings into jewelry. So similar idea.
Right there.
And there you go. Just goes to tell you there's an audience for everything.
No, it's phenomenal stuff to see it though.
But you know, it's a good point that you bring up, and I'm glad you approach it from the academic standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to talk about T-Rex turds. But you know that there's science in everything, and what you can learn from this, and this is a fascinating bit of science. And we talk about dinosaurs and we focus on fossils and we focus on on the bones, and there's Dino Digs at Orlando Science Center is a great display of fossil replicas and dino skeletons, and the Field Museum in Chicago has great displays with the Sioux.
Yep.
And then the American Museum of Natural History has the iconic displays. This is just, another display. Just adds another layer.
Dino Digs was already, in my humble opinion, the finest collection of dinosaur specimens you could see in the southeastern United States. And now adding Pooseum as an exhibition to kind of see all these things here, it takes it to a new level that is right up there with some of the highest class museums in the world, because these are specimens that you won't find other places. And they're so scientifically important, and they're so specific to the field of understanding these animals more than just what they look like, but understanding how they lived and how they experienced the world around them. We study ancient life to figure out more about how life works now and to see where things are going. You got a dog that eats its own turds in the backyard. You're like, oh my gosh, how can I deal with that? Take a look at some of the specimens here and you'll see that is not a new thing. We have animals that lived 70 million years ago with chunks of turds in their feet because the nutrients that are left in there is like, I gotta get something. Yeah, couldn't ride through a Starbucks. We got to find the next specimen.
Well, so the next time you're eating that mega burrito,
yeah,
just know 3 or 4 hours later you're going to be dropping some history.
If you see your dog eating turds in the backyard later on, look at him and say, "Your ancestors walked so that you may run."
Well, I think we end this show on a high note.
Indeed we do.
Yes, yes.
But we're very grateful for all
yes.
you guys who have joined us here today. If you watch it with us live, if you catch it on the replay, by all means, the whole list of everything we talked about is up here, right in the top of the show list order here. We want to hear your opinions about everything from Loki Gator or Gator Loki, however you want to choose to call it. Tell us about your impressions of Gunpowder Milkshake. If you had to sit through Fast 9, what was your favorite takeaway? And then everything else that we want to see. And if you had a chance to go check out the Pooseum, by all means share some photos with us, because we love to see your reaction to seeing a Titanic Tyrannosaur turd right there in front of you, because it's going to be incredible to see it.
Absolutely. And if you've got fond memories of when you were in the theater watching Aliens, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Escape from New York, or Point Break, if you were part of that crowd that your first experience with these movies was at the multiplex, please share those, because as always, like Jimmy said with Pooseum, Nerdspresso is where you can drop some knowledge.
That's right.
And so we hope you join us next time, that you enjoyed the show. Please share some comments. Please follow us on the Nerdspresso feed on Facebook and Instagram.
On Instagram as well.
And also, Jimmy, we have these lovely Nerdspresso mugs. And if you would be interested in having one for yourself, we're informal poll. Let us know. Is this something that you would spend your hard-earned ducats on?
You want to join us for coffee one day? We can make that happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as always, it is awesome to have you join us and put up with our ugly mugs. Shout out to our friends at the lovely B3 in Audubon Park. We are thrilled to be here. Please, again, support our local friends. And we look forward to seeing you soon again at Nerdspresso, because until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay nerdy.